Hi everyone, this is my VR to two of ours. He put out a hashtag Tarot6QA prompt, which I really enjoyed watching yesterday while I was laying in bed. I have a fabulous flu right now, so I'm sitting behind the camera. That enables me to look rather disheveled, and yet still I can have a chat to you. So still in pajamas, mid-afternoon. You get my drift? Anyhow, so without further ado, I'm going to jump into the questions. Number one is, what is your preferred method of shuffling? And I would say, generally speaking, it would be riffle shuffle. I do shuffle differently for different decks. Say a standard tarot. Yeah, I think it's the best way to get all the cards, nicely mixed, especially if you're doing back-to-back reads. It just feels comfortable, although I don't have the biggest hands in the world, so some decks it's a struggle for me to do a riffle. So if that's the case, what have I got around me here? Say if I've got more like an oracle deck, something like this. I think everyone says much the same, but I really don't mind just doing an overhand, just to shuffle them long ways like that. Why struggle when you don't have to? And I don't know why, especially for oracles, when I feel like I'm tapping into the higher realms as opposed to just going within my own self, I just feel like putting air. This is going to sound crazy, but sometimes I just feel like shuffling them like this to allow like a little layer of air. I always feel like I'm reaching sort of like a higher plane when I do this. It's really weird. I never do it with tarot, but for some of the other decks that might pertain to more sort of out there subject matters and, guides and shamanism, it's just something I do. I've never really thought about why, but that's what happens. But generally it's riffle shuffle for me. Number two, how many different people have you read for? 0 to 50, 50 to 100, 100 to 200, or more than 200? That's a very difficult question for me to answer because I don't tend to sort of look at the figures, but I would say it's likely that I have read for more than 200 because I have been in practice for 10 years, and I've done for the past 4 years our mind, body, spirit festival, and you're looking at 8 to 10 reads a day for 4 days every year. Just that alone, you're looking at between 35 and 40 reads just in those 4 days. So I have worked in 4 different centers where you do, of course, get repeat clients, but you see many, many, many different people. And so when I think about over the years, it has to be over 200. I went from being 1 day a week to 4 days a week at this one particular centre in Sydney, which was very busy. Question number 3. Would you consider tarot to be a casual hobby, a passion, or is it your profession? Well, I would say number 1, it is my passion. And out of that, it became my profession. So I've been working now for 10 years as a facilitator of healing, a tarotist and an astrologer. I tend to blend everything, to be honest with you, and my practice is very different now to what it was then. And now I'm going through a lot of very, very big shifts, personal shifts that are already beginning to affect my world of business, what I do and the way I do it. So I'm just allowing that to unfold to see where we go from here. But if anything, I would say that my passion for tarot is growing deeper, further, wider, and I want more. I want to study more. I want to delve into areas of tarot that I've not yet delved, and I'm just looking for the right avenue at the moment. But as it stands, it remains my profession as well as my passion. Number 4, if you were to make your own tarot or oracle deck, what would it look like? It certainly wouldn't look like the ones I've already done. Elise, Wild Moon Woman, I love your oracle. It is absolutely beautiful, and it was that type of thing because I love photography big time. My dream was always to take some beautiful photos myself, as well as gather many of the photos I've taken over the years and make an oracle deck out of them, you know, out of my travels. At least they're my own pictures, and I don't just have to rely on free stock. So that passion remains. I just haven't had the time to, you know, dedicate. I haven't. What's the right way of putting that? I just haven't had enough time to give that project all the love and nurturing and effort that it needs. So one day I will get around to doing a picture oracle, but I love what Elise has done. Absolutely beautiful. In the meantime, I'm not sure if you saw my VR2R so I won't kind of ramble on too long about this, but I did make some round cards. It's a smaller deck. Some of them are actually on my reader's table right now, but I call this my Around the Sun deck, and I love this image of the sun, and I took that myself at the Space Center in Los Angeles, and this was just a bit of an experiment. I wanted to do a round deck and look at the strength of the card by degree, and I take that from the philosophy of round decks that are available, obviously, but also from a certain astrological practice that I learned called timeline astrology, and that's sort of the backbone to this idea for me. So I just basically created a card for every major. It's very basic. You know, I very intentionally used one photo. I just did this on createyourowncards.com, and I really didn't want to muck around too much with fancy stuff. I just wanted to do what I wanted to do with the card itself. And so, you know, is this overactive or underactive? Is it, you know, reversed? Is the energy reversed on itself, etc.? The only area that has suits are the court cards. So I decided to create a bud, a sprout, a seed, a sprout, a bud, and a bloom for the page, knight, queen, king. Sorry, you can tell I'm brain dead today. I'm struggling a bit, pardon me. So, yeah, and it's fire, earth, air, water. So I think you get the idea. And I still use this a lot, this deck. It certainly works for me. And I don't know, there's just something about using a deck that you created yourself, even if it is really basic like that. The other deck that I did share earlier also is my little neutrino deck, I call it. And it's just a whole lot of words. And what I love about this little deck is it's just so easy because it's on photo paper, and then I what do you call it? Laminated it. So you can take this as far as you want. And I really think the question is pertaining to a tarot deck or an oracle. This is neither, but I use it as an oracle, if that makes any sense. But again, you know, I just added words every time. I might get another 20 that I think I'd like to add to the mix, and it's just amazing. I often just pull 5 cards as like a little sentence, and the messages are really profound and pretty well spot on. So it never ceases to amaze me, that little deck, as basic as it is. Where to from here? Oh, just to add to that, if I had an opportunity to make my own tarot deck, I would just love that so much, but I would need an artist. It's funny, you know, I always say to Elise, every time you answer a question, I feel like you're answering from my mind, because we parallel each other so often, and we found out we have some astrological parallels also, which I find intriguing. And she was talking about her brother. He's an artist. Well, my brother can draw. He's not an artist, but he's very, very good. He has actually done some paintings and a lot of sketches. So, you know, if he wanted to study art, he certainly could have, but my uncle was actually an artist. And, you know, he actually was offered a job by Disney. He was doing cartoons for, he could have gone to America and worked for Disney. That's how amazing he was. I'll just show you. This is my favorite painting that my uncle did. This one here I absolutely love. And I think he actually modeled this on my mother. It really reminds me of her. But it's ever so Piscean. I just love it. But a lot of his work, he did a lot of landscapes, just lots of very different styles of artwork. But yeah, he was amazing. Anyway, back to the drawing board. To continue, question 5. Choose one, Marseille, Rider-Waite-Smith, Thoth or Lenormand. I would have to choose Rider-Waite-Smith because it's my background, and majority of the decks that I own are Rider-Waite-Smith based. However, going through these crazy ass changes that I am at the moment, I am steering towards learning more about Marseille, and I'm feeling a great interest in pip decks, something I didn't really do before. I always appreciated their beauty but didn't feel the desire to use them. And when a friend of mine, well, it's actually my friend's mother, whom I have known for a long, long time, gifted me this deck just out of the blue. And I love the fact that you can see the wear and tear. It has history, but she kept her cards in perfect, perfect condition. And I absolutely love it, and I would really like to learn more about it. I was actually going to do March of the Pips, but life was so damn crazy. That was Kelly from The Truth in Story and her beautiful friend Aitzzy and Patrick from In the 78 Cards. So you can find that on Instagram, and some people did some videos. But anyway, there was just too much going on, so I didn't do it. So I'm not sure where the next stage, you know, with the Marseille will be for me, but it needs to be some kind of study course or, you know, study time, and not just dabble like I have done in the past. And also I was gifted Thoth by another lovely lady. I'm very lucky, aren't I? And I've always been intrigued by Thoth. And I think it's just because I think I didn't end up delving as a study program into Thoth because I was just busy working, and I thought, oh, look, I'll get around to it. I was studying a lot of healing modalities too at the time, so I just wanted to click my fingers and know Thoth, you know, inside and out, but that wasn't going to happen. And I had enough study on my plate, and I was working full-time at that time. I was still working in the music industry, so there just wasn't the time. But adding to my, you know, shift and change, I feel that this is the time to start delving into those decks that I haven't spent a great deal of time with in the past. And when things like that happen, when someone gifts you something like this, and then this other lovely lady, there's a story behind it, but I won't go into it, but she gave me her spare Thoth deck. I thought, that's the sign. It's saying it's time. Now you need to utilize this. Don't let that gift go to waste, and do something constructive with those decks. Lenormand I do love, but I'm going through a bit of a stage where I've lost the connection. I have a few Lenormand decks, such as the Gilded Reverie, which I've lost connection with, and this retro Lenormand by Root Weaver, who's right here in Australia, and Inner Whisper. Is it Inner Whispers? Oh, my memory. I don't like being brain dead. It doesn't suit me. This one here, I'm just trying to find. I can't even find the title card. I'm sure this is Inner Whisper, Inner Whispers, that I purchased from, there it is, Whisper Lenormand. I bought from her Etsy store. It's just absolutely beautiful, and half of them are upside down. But I think the artwork is so gorgeous in this deck. So I have a few, and this was the first one I ever purchased, the Mystical, which I still love. Anyway, I sort of don't really feel the desire to spend a lot of time with Lenormand at the moment, but I'm sure I'll get back to it. I was right into it when we did Lena March through Kelly from The Truth in Story, but again, it's just, you know, other things came along. I went further into like shaman wisdom cards and, yeah, things like that, rather than like animal spirit cards, rather than Lenormand. Okay, number 6, recall the first time you used the tarot. I was dabbling in the tarot before I did my first astrological diploma. I can't even remember. I know I bought a deck and I bought a book, that book that I can't even remember which one it was, one of the basic books on tarot, and I used to just draw cards all the time and look in the book and just have a little play around. But I was dabbling basically. And then when I enrolled for my 2-year diploma in psychological astrology, we had to have a tarot deck. So it was a Rider-Waite-Smith, you know, just one of the normal Rider-Waite-Smith decks. And that's when I really began to see how amazing it was, because obviously I was in a classroom and, you know, teacher says, right, we're all going to sit down and do some spreads and you're going to tell me what they mean. And I can remember thinking, oh my God, freak out, panic. I'm not ready for this. And yeah, we were all just thrown in the deep end. And it's interesting because my second teacher said, best way to go, baby, just to be thrown in the deep end. So I remembered when he said that when I was offered a job in a centre, and I was absolutely crapping myself, you might say. I mean, this is a well-respected healing centre and I just didn't want to make a complete fool of myself. But I remembered my teacher saying, you know, once you're thrown in the deep end, you just have to swim. You have to do it. You just put your fears aside, stop worrying about yourself and think about your client, and off you go. And so it was sort of that step process. But the first time I can say I really used the deck to a respectable degree would have been in my class. Back in the early 90s, my friends. Anyway, so that's that. There's my 6 answers. And thank you very much to Avowals for putting this together. I love these videos. These are my favorites. When people just share their stories, share their world. So that's mine, and I hope you enjoyed it. And thank you so much for watching and enduring my slightly brain dead state of mind. Take care, everyone, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye for now.